Now let's use our four-look strategy to solve this word problem. Coach Pool's softball team is selling pies for a fundraiser. They need to sell 2,400 pies to reach their goal. If there are 32 members on the softball team, how many pies does each player need to sell to reach their goal? So in our first look, we are noticing, who is our story about? Well, our story is about a softball team of 32 members. What are these 32 members of the softball team doing? Trying to sell 2,400 pies for a fundraiser. What is our question? How many pies does each player need to sell to reach their goal? How many pies does each player need to sell to reach their goal? And something important to notice is the word each. And each tells us 1. So if I were to reread this, how many pies does one player need to sell to reach their goal? And if we're only asking about one person, one thing, or one group, then we are dividing. Now let's look at our second look. Coach Pool's softball team is selling pies for a fundraiser. They need to sell 2,400 pies to reach their goal. If there are 32 members on the softball team, how many pies does one player need to sell to reach their goal? So we are making a division model, starting out with the total amount of 2,400 pies. And we want to divide all of these pies amongst each player. And so the circles represent a player. So that's our first player, second player, third player, fourth player. And we know that when we draw a model, it's just a representation. So this one will be our 32nd player. And from our first look, we are only asking about how much does one player need to sell for the fundraiser. And that is our second look. So moving on to our third look. Coach Pool's softball team is selling pies for a fundraiser. They need to sell 2,400 pies to reach their goal. If there are 32 members on the softball team, how many pies does one player need to sell to reach their goal? And we know from the question asking about one player, one group, or one thing, and from our model in our second look, that we are dividing.
From our problem, we know that we are going to divide 2,400 by 32. But before we divide 2,400 by 32, we want to write down our mnemonics. So we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So the first thing we need to ask is, can 32 divide into 2? And we know that that we are unable to do that because 32 is bigger than 2. So we're going to put in a 0. And then we can check, can 32 divide into 24? And we know that is not correct because 24 is less than 32. So then we go and ask, can 32 divide into 240? Well, I don't know that off the top of my head, so I may have to do a little side work. So I can multiply 32, let's do 32 times 5. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 more is 16. Well, 160, we haven't quite gone over 240, so I would continue to go up. So then we can multiply 32 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 more is 19. Well, we still have not got past 240, so let's go up again. 32 times 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 more is 22. That's closer, but we still have not moved past 240. So let's try 32 times 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 more is 25. Wow, that is bigger than 240. So we cannot divide by 8. So the closest we can divide is by 7. We want to make sure we keep our numbers lined up. So we have just divided. So 7 times 32, we already know, is 224. So we just multiplied. Now we need to subtract. We can't subtract 4 from 0, so we borrow. 10 take away 4 is 6. 3 take away 2 is 1. Okay, so we just subtracted. Now, do we have a number to bring down? And we do. We bring down the 0. And anytime you bring down a number, you have to start over. So now we need to divide 32 into 160. And we've already done the work once, so we can go over here and look. And 32 goes into 160 5 times. So we just divided. So 5 times 32 is 160. 160. We've multiplied. Then we subtract 160. Take away 160 is 0. I don't have another number to bring down, so my quotient and answer is 75.
Now we need to check our division by multiplying.
Now let's check to see if we got our division problem correct. And the way we would do that is that we would multiply 75 times 32. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 more is 15. We're through with the ones place, so we make sure we put our 0 in the ones place. Then we multiply the tens place. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1 more is 22. And then we add. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. Bring down our 2. So our multiplication, we got 2,400. 2,400. Then we divided correctly.
Now we need to give our problem a fourth and final look. Coach Pool's softball team is selling pies for a fundraiser. They need to sell 2,400 pies to reach their goal. If there are 32 members on the softball team, how many pies does each player need to sell to reach their goal? And in our fourth look, we want to summarize all the steps that we took to answer our problems to show that we gave a reasonable answer. And we're going to use our first 3 previous looks. So in our first look, there is a softball team with 32 members that are selling 2,400 pies for a fundraiser. The coach wants to know how many pies each member needs to sell. In our second look, the model that we drew showed dividing because there was a total amount being divided into groups to show one group or each group's amount. And in our third look, I divided 2,400 by 32 to get 75 pies that each member needs to sell, and then checked my division work by multiplying 32 by 75 for the product of 2,400. And that is our 4-look strategy to solve this problem.